All right, we're going to pick it back up. We had just talked about extraction, just basic safety rules. What should you do with broken glass? If you get acid in your eye accidentally, what should you do? Things like that. So, I mean, just really, I think there's one safety rule question. So, I don't think there's anything there that's going to trick you up or mess you up on that one. Reactions from different experiments. Esterification, if you'll remember, we take an alcohol and a carboxylic acid and we create an ester, and hence the name esterification. You also make water in that reaction. Um, the borohydride reduction reaction, what was reduced, what agent is used to cause it to happen. So in that case, what was what material did we use to do the um, reduction as opposed to the chemical that was usually used? We talked about the safety of it. Um, Structures for various compounds and types of compounds that we reactions that we did. So you can recognize functional groups in those molecules. There'll be a couple pictures of some equipment and like proper place to put a thermometer in a distillation. You'll see, you'll be pictures and at different positions. Pick the correct one. If you'll remember on that, the bulb of the thermometer should be below the bend. Um, on that also, just I could pick any various piece of equipment. There's a reference chart in the back of your book with pictures of all the equipment if I throw something at you that you don't remember what the name of it is. But it should be pretty obvious to you when you see the pictures. Obviously, we got some calculations that you have to do. Percent yield calculations. There might be a density problem, converting mass to moles or moles to mass. Calculation of how much solvent you would need for a recrystallization. We talked about that in one of the experiments. You had to do the calculations where you do a ratio if you know the um, solubility of the compound. You can set that up for the amount of material that you have. Let's say something's 1 gram is soluble in 100 milliliters, and you've got 5 grams. Well, then you would need 500 milliliters. That's a really extreme number. 500 milliliters of solvent in that case. And remember, you want to do that calculation for the boiling point, not for the uh, cold temperatures. You want to always do your calculation because you want it all dissolved in the boiling liquid. Um, Theoretical yield calculation. How much drying agent to use? Remember, there's a rule of thumb there. Um, and honestly, I don't have it before me, but you can look that up back in the drying agent portion. I think it's a gram per 25 milliliters or 30 milliliters, something like that. But it's in the text in the back there. Percent of something in something. So if I give you, like you extracted this much material, you started with this much material. What percent was it of that material? Um, Obviously, I'll give you some fake setup data from like the hydrocarbon ID lab and the drug. Oh, we didn't do the drug analysis lab, so let's take that one out. In the functional group lab, I'll give you some setups on those, and you can use the charts that were in those experiments to look up a compound and ID it based upon its density and its refractive index and its uh, boiling point. Or you could get, um, I'll give you results of, as I said before, results of tests, and then maybe a IR and ask you to identify a compound, best one from that. Um, the borohydride reduction lab, just lab setup, the reaction scheme a little bit. We had some issues with that one, so the quizzes, when you get those back, make sure you look them over. There was a commonly missed question on there about where did the original hydrogens come from. They came from the sodium hydroxide. Um, so that's really the only thing that people really messed up on that, you know. And now the type of thing I might ask you there was what functional group turned into what functional group. And in that case, it was an aldehyde that turned into an alcohol. So I might talk about that in any of the experiments. You know, how did we recognize that experiment was successful? What happened in the molecule? You know, what functional group are we looking for? Calculation of hydrogen deficiency and what does it mean? If you'll remember, the hydrogen deficiency basically is giving you the degree of unsaturation in the compound. For every one hydrogen deficiency unit, you're talking about you have either a double bond in the compound or you've made a ring in the compound. And we said things like, you know, if you see a hydrogen deficiency of 4, oh gosh, that usually means you got a benzene ring because you've got a ring and you've got 3 double bonds. So 2-hour time limit on the exam. So be organized, have your material ready so that you're not having to hunt and search everything down. You know, kind of organize your materials. Maybe and somebody asked me when we did the review session Thursday, um, are they in order? Well, no, they're not. And I've adapted this thing over the years depending upon what labs we have. So when I take questions out, I insert whatever new lab we do in that spot where I took a question out. So unfortunately, it is not in order of the labs. It does jump around in that respect. So, and also I wanted to make it fit on the pages so that it would be, you know, a nice concise document, and I just didn't have a sprawling bunch of pages. So that part you will probably have to jump around a little bit. But if you've got all your materials and you've got your study guide organized by, you know, maybe you don't have to write down everything on here, but at least you put page numbers of where you can find things. And I think you'll be successful that route. Um, 50 multiple choice questions. They are the UV. Let's go back on it for just a moment. I did forget. You will have to calculate the lambda max for a compound. When we did IR, obviously there's nothing you had to calculate. You just have to identify things from that. But on the UV, you will have to do, and I think there's one of each kind. I think I have an enone and a diene. So make sure you have your Woodward Visa rules with you so that you can do those calculations. Um, that pretty much covers everything. I don't know that there's any more I can tell you. I mean, other than, you know, obviously giving you the questions. So um, I think if you just look over your material, get yourself organized, I think you'll be successful. Look forward to seeing you Thursday. Remember, you have 2 lab reports due as well. And if for some reason you don't get one finished, I mean, I have to have the grades in I don't have to have the grades in until the end of the following week. So if you do run out a little time, I know. I mean, it's the last week of class, but I know it's not finals week yet. But you could scan one in and send it to me. But if you can get them both in, it would be awesome. It makes it easier for me, and then you don't have that hanging over your head for finals week. So we'll see you on Thursday.